20 black actors who got fired in the middle of filming. In Hollywood, fame can disappear as fast as it arrives, especially when you're fired mid-filming. From shocking scandals to creative clashes and quiet removals, these black actors were cut from major projects when no one saw it coming. Some fought back, others walked away, but all of them left behind unforgettable stories. Why were these stars really let go, and what happened next? Stay tuned as we uncover the truth behind 20 surprising exits in Legends of Black Excellence. Orlando Jones. In one of the most controversial firings in recent TV history, Orlando Jones was abruptly let go from American Gods during the production of its third season in 2019. Jones, who portrayed the African trickster god Anansi, better known as Mr. Nancy, had become a fan favorite for his fiery monologues and unapologetically political presence. His performance, particularly the unforgettable "Angry Gets S*** done" speech in Season 2, wasn't just acting, it was a cultural statement. But that very power may have been what got him fired. Jones revealed in a viral video on Twitter in December 2019 that he was let go by the new showrunner, Charles "Sheik" Igli, shortly after Igli took over for Season 3. According to Jones, Igli, a white executive producer, felt Mr. Nancy's character sent the wrong message for Black America. Jones alleged that Igli even consulted black friends to validate the decision to write the character out. He believed that Mr. Nancy's angry, black man persona was bad for America, Jones said. The studio, Fremantle Media, denied wrongdoing, claiming Jones's contract simply wasn't renewed because Season 3 would focus on a different section of Neil Gaiman's book that didn't include Mr. Nancy. But the public wasn't convinced. Many saw it as a thinly veiled attempt to silence a character that spoke too directly about race, power, and injustice. To add to the irony, Jones wasn't just an actor on the show, he also worked as a writer and consulting producer in Season 2. His firing sparked industry-wide debate about creative censorship and the erasure of bold black voices in mainstream media. Stacey Dash. Best known for her role as Dion in the 1995 cult classic Clueless, Stacey Dash made a sharp career turn when she became a political commentator on Fox News in 2014. But after just 3 years, her contract wasn't renewed in early 2017, effectively a firing that brought her brief media career to an abrupt end. While Fox News cited no official reason at the time, Dash's on-air presence had grown increasingly polarizing. During her tenure, Dash became infamous for her outspoken conservative views, often clashing with narratives surrounding race, identity, and culture. One of her most controversial moments came in 2016 when she called for the elimination of Black History Month and BET, Black Entertainment Television, claiming they promoted segregation. The backlash was immediate, and even some of her fans were shocked by her stance. Dash also faced disciplinary action in 2015 when she was suspended for 2 weeks after using profanity on live television while criticizing President Obama's approach to terrorism. Her comment, "He didn't give a s******, violated Fox's broadcast standards, and though she returned afterward, her credibility took a hit. While Dash claimed she was just telling it like it is, her confrontational approach alienated both viewers and colleagues. By 2017, when Fox announced she was no longer with the network, few were surprised. Dash later stood by her remarks but quietly faded from political commentary, turning her focus back to acting and writing. In interviews since her firing, Dash has expressed regret over some of her political rhetoric, even saying she was used as a token during her time at Fox. Her story is a reminder that controversy may spark attention, but it can just as easily burn bridges, especially when delivered live on air. Ernie Hudson. While Ernie Hudson wasn't formally fired from Ghostbusters, the treatment he received during and after production felt like a professional slight that haunted him for decades. Cast as Winston Zeddemore in the 1984 sci-fi comedy classic, Hudson expected a prominent role alongside Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis. But once filming began, things took an unexpected turn. His screen time was drastically reduced, and his character was introduced halfway through the film rather than appearing from the beginning, as originally written. Hudson opened up about the experience on The Howard Stern Show in 2023, describing how he felt marginalized by both the production team and the marketing machine behind the film. Most notably, Winston was the only Ghostbuster omitted from the original theatrical posters and promotional materials, a move that made Hudson feel like an afterthought. "I was there," he said, "but I wasn't really there." The exclusion didn't end with the original film. Even on the movie's 30th anniversary, Hudson noted the same three faces, Murray, Aykroyd, and Ramis, were front and center on posters and merchandise, while his image was once again missing. Though he reprised his role in Ghostbusters 2, 1989, and appeared in Ghostbusters: Afterlife, 2021, the wounds of the original snub never fully healed. Hudson has resisted labeling the experience purely as racial bias, but acknowledged that, as a black actor in 1980s Hollywood, it was difficult not to see the pattern. "It took me 10 years to stop taking it personally," he admitted. Despite the emotional toll, Hudson continued to work steadily in film and television. His resilience is a testament to his talent and character, but his Ghostbusters story remains a cautionary tale of how Hollywood can sideline even its own heroes when they don't fit the mold. Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors was positioned to become one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most important figures. Cast as Kong the Conqueror, a multiversal villain set to carry the franchise's next phase, Majors had already appeared in Loki, 2021, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, 2023, and was slated to headline Avengers: The Kong Dynasty, 2026. But in December 2023, Marvel made the unprecedented decision to fire him, just days after he was found guilty in a high-profile assault case. The legal trouble began in March 2023 when Majors was arrested in New York following an altercation with his then-girlfriend, Grace Jabari. He was later charged with third-degree reckless assault and harassment. The case garnered intense media attention, not just because of Majors' rising star status, but because Marvel had already woven his character deeply into the franchise's future. When a Manhattan jury found Majors guilty of the assault in December 2023, Marvel moved swiftly. The studio cut ties with him immediately, marking one of the most public actor dismissals in the studio's history. No official statement was issued beyond confirming the end of his contract, but the message was clear: Marvel was moving on. Majors' firing left a massive gap in the MCU, especially as Kong was intended to be the central antagonist across several films. Speculation erupted: would Marvel recast the role or pivot to a new villain entirely? As of early 2025, no replacement has been announced, but the storyline remains in flux. Once hailed as a future icon of superhero cinema, Majors' swift fall from grace underscored the fragile relationship between stardom and public trust. In the end, it wasn't a performance or poor ratings that ended his role, but a courtroom verdict that rewrote his career path overnight. Oprah Winfrey. Today, Oprah Winfrey is a media powerhouse, billionaire, and cultural icon, but her career almost ended before it ever began. In the late 1970s, Oprah was working as an evening news co-anchor at WJZ-TV in Baltimore, a coveted position at the time. Yet despite her clear talent and presence, station executives concluded she wasn't fit for television news. Her emotionally driven style clashed with the serious, detached tone expected of newscasters. Rather than firing her outright, the station quietly reassigned Oprah to a low-profile daytime talk show called People Are Talking. At the time, it felt like a demotion. But what seemed like a career setback turned out to be the defining pivot of her life. Unlike the rigid confines of nightly news, People Are Talking gave Oprah room to be herself, to connect, laugh, empathize, and engage with guests in a way that felt genuine. Audiences responded immediately. Oprah didn't just deliver stories, she shared them. That skill became her signature, setting her apart in an era of buttoned-up broadcasting. By the early 1980s, she caught the attention of producers in Chicago, landing her own syndicated show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, which debuted nationally in 1986. The rest is history. The show ran for 25 years, transformed daytime television, and helped build an empire spanning books, film, wellness, and philanthropy. It's easy to forget that Oprah's rise began with a rejection. She was deemed too emotional, too expressive, too different, qualities that eventually became her greatest strengths. Her story illustrates how being pushed aside in one space can create the freedom to thrive in another. Before she was a legend, Oprah was almost lost to newsroom politics. But instead of being fired outright, she was quietly redirected, and used that detour to change the world. Chadwick Boseman. Long before he became a global icon as Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman faced a career-defining setback that revealed his deep commitment to integrity, even when it cost him a job. In 2003, Boseman was cast in the soap opera All My Children, playing Reggie Porter Montgomery, a troubled teen with a stereotypical backstory, a gang member with no father and an absent mother. Just 1 week into filming, Boseman voiced concerns to producers about the way the character perpetuated negative tropes about black families. Boseman didn't come in swinging, he asked questions. Why was the character violent? Why was his family dysfunctional? Was there room for complexity, for growth, for dignity? The answers he received didn't satisfy him. And the next day, he was let go. The firing, though disappointing, didn't break him. In a 2018 commencement speech at Howard University, his alma mater, Boseman recalled the experience as a turning point. It taught him the cost of standing up for what you believe in, but also the power of planting a seed for change. In a remarkable twist of fate, Boseman's replacement on All My Children was none other than Michael B. Jordan, his future co-star in Black Panther. Years later, both actors would represent a new era of layered, dynamic black representation on screen. Boseman's quiet act of defiance wasn't just about one character on one show. It reflected his lifelong refusal to be boxed in or reduced to a caricature. From Jackie Robinson to Thurgood Marshall, his later roles would redefine what it meant to portray black excellence. John Boyega. John Boyega may be best known as Finn from the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but in 2021, he made headlines for a different kind of departure, walking away mid-production from the Netflix film Rebel Ridge. At the time, Netflix cited family reasons for Boyega's exit, but as more reports surfaced, it became clear that deeper creative and production-related tensions were at play. According to industry insiders, Boyega had growing concerns about the film's script, direction, and even on-set accommodations. Though his representatives maintained that his decision was personal, sources close to the production suggested that the actor felt the creative vision had shifted in a way that no longer aligned with what he signed on for. The decision wasn't taken lightly. Boyega left after filming had already begun, forcing Netflix to pause production and recast the role, eventually bringing in actor Aaron Pierre as his replacement. While this move caused delays and reshuffling, Netflix publicly supported Boyega's right to exit, framing it as a mutual and respectful parting. This wasn't the first time Boyega had spoken out about inequality in the industry. In 2020, he made waves by criticizing Disney for sidelining his Star Wars character after heavily promoting him during the marketing campaign. In international posters, his image was even reduced or removed, most notably in the Chinese release of The Force Awakens. Boyega's exit from Rebel Ridge only further solidified his reputation as someone unwilling to compromise on principles, even at the cost of major roles. He's since continued to pursue projects that align with his vision and values, proving that he's not just a performer, but a vocal advocate for authenticity and equity behind the scenes. Tyrese Gibson. Tyrese Gibson was once a beloved cornerstone of the Fast and Furious franchise, playing Roman Pierce with humor and heart since Too Fast, Too Furious, 2003. But his position within the series took a serious hit after a public meltdown in 2017. When Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson announced a solo spin-off, Hobbs and Shaw, Gibson exploded online, blaming Johnson for delaying the 9th installment of the main series and disrupting the cast's income flow. Tyrese's Instagram posts were emotional, erratic, and aimed directly at Johnson. "Congratulations to The Rock," he wrote sarcastically. "You broke up the Fast family." The posts didn't sit well with fans or studio executives. While Vin Diesel remained the franchise's anchor, Gibson's public behavior made him appear unstable, especially as the feud dragged on for months. In a 2018 appearance on the Red Pill podcast, Tyrese admitted his mistake. He revealed that he had been speaking on behalf of other cast members who were frustrated but had kept quiet. "Stupid me, I went public," he said. "It wasn't professional. It wasn't cool." Dwayne Johnson, for his part, stayed mostly above the fray, but later confirmed on Watch What Happens Live that he hadn't spoken to Tyrese since the outburst, and had no plans to. While Tyrese wasn't officially fired, he was noticeably absent from Hobbs and Shaw, and his role in the main franchise appeared to be reduced. Industry insiders speculated that Universal was quietly phasing him out to protect the brand. Keke Palmer. Keke Palmer has been working in Hollywood since childhood, with a resume that spans acting, music, and hosting. From Aquila and the Bee to Hustlers and Nope, she's proven her range time and again. But even with undeniable talent and charisma, Keke hasn't been immune to being dropped from projects midstream, often under the vague industry excuse of creative redirection. Creative redirection is Hollywood speak for a behind-the-scenes shift that leads to recasting or role elimination. It's rarely about the actor's performance and often stems from producers changing the show's tone, target audience, or storyline. Keke has experienced this firsthand on multiple occasions. Though she hasn't publicly named every project, industry insiders and fans have noted her sudden absence from certain roles she was previously attached to, including pilots that were scrapped or characters rewritten after test screenings. Palmer herself has spoken candidly about the challenges of being a young black woman in the entertainment industry. In interviews, she's addressed how typecasting limited her options, and how producers often struggled to place her outside of the loud black girl trope. Her versatility, something that should have made her more valuable, sometimes worked against her in a rigid casting system. Despite these setbacks, Keke has maintained her agency, often stepping away from projects that no longer aligned with her creative vision. Beyond acting, she's forged her own path in music, producing, and even launching her own digital network to spotlight underrepresented voices. Zendaya. Though Zendaya was never officially fired from a film set, her early journey through Hollywood and high fashion involved quiet rejections that could have derailed a less determined performer. The former Disney Channel star, known for her breakout role on Shake It Up, faced major pushback when she transitioned to more mature roles, particularly when she was cast as Michelle M.J. Jones in Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017. The backlash was swift. Some fans protested that Zendaya didn't look like the traditional red-headed MJ from the comics. Social media lit up with complaints, and think pieces debated the race-swapping of iconic characters. But Zendaya stayed grounded. Rather than lash out, she responded with grace, emphasizing the importance of diversity and saying, "I'm MJ, but I'm a different MJ." She proved the skeptics wrong. Her performance won over audiences, and her version of MJ became one of the most beloved characters in the modern Marvel era. Yet the barriers didn't stop at the movie screen. In the fashion world, major brands like Chanel, Gucci, and Dior initially refused to dress Zendaya for red carpet events. Despite her growing popularity, she was told she was too green, or that she didn't fit their schedule. In reality, it was clear these high-fashion institutions weren't ready to bet on a young black actress. Instead of folding, Zendaya and her stylist, Law Roach, carved their own path, collaborating with designers who supported her. The results were stunning. Her red carpet looks turned heads and set trends, eventually forcing those same fashion houses to come knocking. Zendaya's rise wasn't just about talent, it was about resilience. She wasn't fired mid-filming, but she was excluded, doubted, and underestimated. And she turned all of it into fuel for a career that now spans Emmys, global fashion campaigns, and box office hits. Samuel L. Jackson. Before he became one of the highest-grossing actors in cinema history, Samuel L. Jackson nearly lost it all, not because of lack of talent, but because of addiction. In the late 1980s, Jackson was cast in the original Yale Repertory Theater productions of August Wilson's The Piano Lesson and Two Trains Running. These roles were considered career-launching opportunities for any actor. But when the productions moved to Broadway, Jackson wasn't invited to come along. The reason? His addiction had become too disruptive. Jackson later revealed that during this period, he was struggling with a powerful cocaine and alcohol dependency. Though the theater company never issued a formal firing, it was clear that he had been replaced by Charles S. Dutton and Anthony Chisholm, respectively, because the producers didn't trust him to handle the responsibility of Broadway. The experience was a wake-up call. Jackson entered rehab and committed to getting clean. Just a few weeks after treatment, he was cast in Spike Lee's Jungle Fever, 1991, playing Gator, a crack addict. The role was painfully close to home, and Jackson's performance was so raw and authentic that it earned a special jury prize for Best Supporting Actor at the Cannes Film Festival, an award created just for him. In retrospect, being quietly pushed out of those Broadway productions may have saved his life. Jackson went on to star in Pulp Fiction, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and as Nick Fury in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, accumulating over 150 film credits and becoming a cultural icon. Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's introduction into the Marvel Cinematic Universe was sudden and unexpected. In Iron Man 2, 2010, he replaced Terrence Howard as Lieutenant Colonel James "Rhodey" Rhodes, Tony Stark's best friend and future war machine. The shift came without much public explanation at the time, and Cheadle himself was dropped into the role with little notice, reportedly receiving just a 2-hour window to decide whether to accept it. So why was Terrence Howard let go? According to industry reports, Howard had disputes with Marvel over salary. He was the highest paid actor in the first Iron Man, 2008, but when it came time to renegotiate, the studio allegedly wanted to reduce his compensation significantly. Howard claimed that Robert Downey Jr. didn't advocate for him and that the studio chose to prioritize Downey's rising stardom. Marvel, meanwhile, suggested that Howard was difficult to work with on set. Enter Don Cheadle, respected, versatile, and drama-free. Once cast, he not only stepped into the role but helped evolve it. Cheadle brought wit, warmth, and gravitas to War Machine across numerous Marvel films, including Avengers, Endgame and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Fans embraced him quickly, and his performance has since become a pillar of the franchise. Although Cheadle himself wasn't fired, his rise came directly at the expense of another black actor whose exit from a billion-dollar franchise remains one of Marvel's most controversial casting decisions. For Cheadle, it was an opportunity seized. For Howard, it was a career detour that came with lasting consequences. Halle Berry. Halle Berry has long been one of Hollywood's most celebrated actresses, but even an Oscar winner isn't immune to sudden exits and project collapses. In 2024, Berry quietly stepped away from All's Fair, a legal drama she was set to star in and executive produce alongside Ryan Murphy. The show had also cast Kim Kardashian and Glenn Close, generating significant buzz. But shortly after the announcement, Berry withdrew, citing scheduling conflicts. While the official reason was vague, insiders speculated that behind-the-scenes creative shifts may have played a role. The situation echoed another recent disappointment. Berry's Netflix film The Mothership was scrapped during post-production. The sci-fi drama had already wrapped filming in 2021, but after extended delays and reshoot complications, reportedly due to child actors aging out of their roles, the project was shelved entirely. Despite Berry's lead performance and the studio's investment, The Mothership was quietly buried. Berry has also spoken candidly about her past struggles with major studios, especially during her time as Storm in the X-Men series. For X-Men: The Last Stand, 2006, she nearly declined to return after learning that the studio had used a deceptive script to lure her back. Director Matthew Vaughn later confirmed that the studio fed Berry a more empowering version of Storm's role to secure her signature, only to cut much of it during production. Vaughn was so disillusioned by the manipulation that he left the project. These experiences illustrate how even A-list actors can find themselves sidelined by studio politics, miscommunication, or shifting priorities. While Berry was never fired in the traditional sense, her story is a clear example of how black actresses often face abrupt exits, reworked contracts, or broken promises in an industry where control frequently slips away, even from the stars. Mike Epps. Mike Epps was once set to take on the role of a lifetime, legendary comedian Richard Pryor, in a long-anticipated biopic directed by Lee Daniels. The project, titled Richard Pryor, Is It Something I Said?, was announced in 2014 and had Epps cast as the lead, with Oprah Winfrey and Eddie Murphy attached to the ensemble. For years, the biopic was stuck in development hell, but by all accounts, Epps remained the director's top choice. However, by 2024, it became clear the film was no longer moving forward, with Epps no longer in the picture. During a revealing interview on the All the Smoke podcast, Epps spoke candidly about the stalled production and offered a theory as to why he may have been unofficially pushed out. He hinted that his lack of a close relationship with Richard Pryor's widow, Jennifer Lee Pryor, may have influenced the decision. While he was careful not to throw accusations, Epps suggested that personal dynamics and behind-the-scenes politics played a larger role than talent or commitment. The film had long struggled with creative differences, casting changes, and legal complications over rights. Yet Epps had immersed himself in the role, even receiving praise from those close to Pryor for his uncanny portrayal. The emotional loss was amplified when Epps attended Pryor's funeral and noticed that none of Pryor's close peers spoke at the service, a moment that reflected the complexity of the icon's legacy. Though not technically fired, Epps was effectively erased from a project he had carried for years. The ordeal is a stark example of how personal relationships and quiet conflicts can sideline even the most promising performances. And for Epps, losing the chance to play his comedy hero was a professional heartbreak that never got its proper closure. Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker became a global superstar thanks to his iconic role as Smokey in Friday, 1995. His fast-talking, weed-smoking character was an instant fan favorite and helped turn the film into a cult classic. But when it came time for the sequel, Next Friday, 2000, Tucker was noticeably, and permanently, absent. It wasn't studio politics or a contract dispute that kept him out. It was his personal transformation. By the late 90s, Tucker had become a born-again Christian and no longer felt comfortable portraying Smokey, whose storyline centered on drug use and profanity. In an industry where sequels often mean big paydays, Tucker turned down a reported $10 to $12 million to return. His reasoning? He didn't want to promote a lifestyle he no longer believed in. For fans, it was a surprise. For Hollywood, it was a rare example of someone walking away from a franchise at its peak. Tucker's career didn't falter immediately. He found even greater success in the Rush Hour franchise alongside Jackie Chan, earning up to $25 million for Rush Hour 3. But after that, he seemingly disappeared from major projects. Part of that was by choice. Tucker focused on humanitarian work, spirituality, and live stand-up. But part of it stemmed from how Hollywood struggled to reconcile his comedic legacy with his new convictions. Years later, in interviews, Tucker stood by his decision. He acknowledged that the Friday franchise helped launch his career but said that returning would have felt like a step backward, creatively and morally. Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne's portrayal of Morpheus in the Matrix trilogy, 1999 to 2003, remains one of the most iconic mentor roles in sci-fi history. Cool, commanding, and cerebral, Fishburne helped anchor the franchise alongside Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss. So when The Matrix Resurrections hit theaters in 2021, fans were stunned to discover that Fishburne wasn't in it, and hadn't even been invited back. In interviews, Fishburne confirmed he was never approached by Warner Brothers or director Lana Wachowski. "I have not been asked," he said candidly. "I wish them well. I hope the movie does great." Instead of reprising the role, the film introduced a new version of Morpheus, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. The studio justified the change as a narrative decision. This new Morpheus was a younger, reimagined version meant to reflect the Matrix's evolving digital reality. Still, the absence of the original Morpheus sparked controversy. Fishburne's performance had been central to the trilogy's identity, and fans questioned why both he and Hugo Weaving, Agent Smith, were left out. Many viewed it as a creative snub rather than a natural progression of the story. The studio offered no public explanation for excluding Fishburne, and while there was no formal firing, the decision echoed as a silent rejection of a performer who had helped define the franchise. For Fishburne, the omission didn't seem to bruise his ego. He remained gracious and respectful, but it left a void for longtime fans who viewed him as irreplaceable. Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett's rise and fall was one of the most dramatic in recent TV history. Best known for playing Jamal Lyon on the hit series Empire, Smollett portrayed a sensitive, openly gay musician navigating fame, family, and identity, earning praise for both his acting and activism. But in early 2019, Smollett's career unraveled overnight after a scandal that would dominate headlines for years. In January 2019, Smollett reported being the victim of a hate crime in Chicago, claiming two men assaulted him, shouted racist and homophobic slurs, and tied a noose around his neck. The public rallied behind him, briefly. Within weeks, police alleged that Smollett had staged the attack himself, reportedly paying two acquaintances to carry it out in an effort to boost his career. As the investigation unfolded, the backlash intensified. Smollett was charged with filing a false police report. Though he maintained his innocence, Empire producers made a swift decision. They removed his character from the final 2 episodes of Season 5. His contract was extended for Season 6, but co-creator Lee Daniels confirmed there were no plans for Jamal to return. In effect, Smollett had been fired, without the formal language. In December 2021, he was convicted on 5 counts of disorderly conduct. He was sentenced to 150 days in jail, probation, and restitution. Then, in a surprise 2024 twist, the Illinois Supreme Court overturned the conviction, citing double jeopardy. Legally, Smollett walked away, but his career remained in limbo. Once a rising star, Smollett became a cautionary tale about fame, credibility, and the court of public opinion. Whether he was acting out of desperation, delusion, or defiance, the fallout was severe. Fired, disgraced, and largely blacklisted, Smollett's story is one of the most jarring collapses in modern television history. Anthony Mackie. Anthony Mackie is now a household name, especially for fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where he plays Sam Wilson, formerly the Falcon, now stepping into the role of Captain America. But his journey to superhero stardom nearly derailed before it truly began. Although not officially fired mid-filming, Mackie's early days in The Hurt Locker, 2008, almost ended with him being replaced. According to industry insiders, Mackie clashed with co-star Jeremy Renner during the intense, low-budget shoot in Jordan. The tension between the actors, while later dismissed as creative friction, reportedly became enough of a concern that producers considered recasting one of the roles. Mackie, at one point, feared he was about to be let go. The stakes were high. The Hurt Locker would go on to win 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, and helped launch Mackie's mainstream career. Had he been removed from the film, the trajectory of his career could have been drastically different. Though he stayed on and delivered a powerful performance, the experience became a lesson in how fragile even the most promising roles can be. Later, Mackie used that momentum to land more visible roles, including Tupac Shakur in Notorious, 2009, and eventually made his MCU debut in Captain America, The Winter Soldier, 2014. Today, Mackie is leading Captain America, Brave New World, but his near removal from The Hurt Locker is a reminder of how even rising stars can find themselves one disagreement away from being dropped. Darrell M. Bell. Darrell M. Bell became a recognizable face to millions in the late 80s and early 90s thanks to his role as Ron Johnson Jr. on the groundbreaking sitcom A Different World. The show, a spin-off of The Cosby Show, followed students at the fictional Hillman College and was celebrated for its celebration of black culture, education, and upward mobility. Bell's character was charming, smooth-talking, and funny, quickly becoming a fan favorite across the show's 6 seasons, 1987 to 1993. But once A Different World ended, Bell's career momentum sharply stalled. Just 3 years later, he landed a lead role in Homeboys in Outer Space, 1996, a UPN sci-fi comedy widely panned by critics. The show was cancelled after just 1 season, and Bell found himself in a difficult position, known for a beloved role, but now associated with a show seen as a step backward for black representation on TV. Though Bell was never officially fired mid-filming, his post-Hillman trajectory mirrored the career cliff many black sitcom actors of the 90s faced: typecasting, poor scripts, or projects that lacked the prestige or longevity to keep them in the spotlight. In effect, his exit from the cultural radar felt like an unofficial dismissal from Hollywood's A-list. In 2009, Bell appeared on the Fox reality series House Husbands of Hollywood alongside his longtime partner Tempest Bledsoe, Vanessa from The Cosby Show, offering fans a rare glimpse into his personal life. Though he occasionally appears at A Different World reunion events and panels, Bell has largely stepped away from major acting roles. Thandai Newton. Thandai Newton is widely regarded as one of the most nuanced actresses of her generation, with a career spanning Beloved, Crash, and the Emmy-winning Westworld. But in April 2022, Newton made headlines when she abruptly exited the production of Magic Mike's Last Dance just 11 days into filming. Warner Brothers issued a brief statement, attributing her departure to family matters, and emphasized that it was a difficult decision. But the gossip mill churned out a more dramatic version, that Newton had engaged in a heated on-set argument with co-star Channing Tatum, reportedly over the then-recent Will Smith, Chris Rock Oscars slap. Though the specifics were never confirmed, multiple outlets ran with the narrative that the disagreement escalated to the point of irreconcilable tension. Director Steven Soderbergh later denied the conflict rumors, asserting that Newton's departure had nothing to do with on-set drama. Still, the timing and speed of her replacement, with Salma Hayek stepping into the role, fueled speculation that Newton had been quietly removed or walked away from a situation that had spiraled out of her control. Regardless of the truth, the incident represented a rare case of an acclaimed A-lister being replaced mid-shoot on a major studio project. Newton, known for being outspoken on issues of race, gender, and abuse in the industry, had previously accused Hollywood of sidelining her for being too light-skinned or too opinionated. This latest twist seemed to echo those frustrations, even if the studio narrative remained sanitized. Since her exit, Newton has stayed largely out of the spotlight. Whether her departure was personal, political, or creative, the suddenness of it all reminded audiences how even the most respected performers can be abruptly sidelined, and how, in Hollywood, silence often speaks louder than truth. Hollywood is full of surprises, and these stories prove that no role is ever guaranteed. Which firing shocked you the most, or do you think someone deserved a second chance? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share your thoughts. And for more powerful stories that celebrate resilience, truth, and talent, subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence and join our growing community today.